Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to Blitz Chess Postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 228. I was black here, and I played e5 in response to e4, and we get into the Ruy Lopez, or Spanish game. So bishop b5, a6, the Morphy defense, and knight f6. So far we've followed the main line, and the main line here would be castles, after which Black could take the pawn and go into the open Ruy Lopez. White usually gets the pawn back. Or White can defend the pawn with one of these other moves, but castling is the most popular. And after castling, the most popular move is not to take the pawn, but rather to kick the bishop and and develop the dark squared bishop. So that's the way it's usually played, but my opponent played something different. He played knight c3. And I was aware of this move. I actually attended a lecture by Boris Spassky once, and he was famous when he had the black side of this setup. He would always play, if White castled here, he would always take the pawn, go into the open Ruy Lopez. So when he had White, he said, why not just defend that pawn and go into this setup? So this is the four knights variation of the Ruy Lopez. So even though I was aware of it, I really didn't know what the normal moves were here. Looks like bishop e7. Like in a standard Ruy Lopez is playable. Maybe b5 kicking the bishop and bishop c5 are also ideas. But I played d6, so it's sort of a conservative move, but it defends the e-pawn, so I don't have to worry about White taking this knight and then grabbing a pawn here, which you always have to calculate if it works or not, if you're not familiar with the variation. So it saves me some trouble. My opponent played d3, looks like even d4 was playable there, and then I play bishop g4, and we're out of the opening book. If I wanted to stay in the normal range, it looks like bishop e7 is the move to play, but bishop g4 is okay as well. Let's go back. And I'm leaving the chess engine off. I'll just report on its findings, and I'll be able to do a couple tactical quizzes along the way. So the game stays in the range of even to slightly better for White for a long time. Typical kind of opening advantage. We're all just developing our pieces here, also kicking the bishop, seeing where it wants to go. And then he decides to take the knight, which is not bad. This dark squared bishop is, I'm left with this bad bishop blocked in by these pieces, so it's not a bad trade. And he's got a good bishop here. It's outside the pawn chain. So he played here, and I castle. The chess engine even thinks that I should be taking this knight here with my bishop and doing the same thing. So I guess that's a reasonable way to play, particularly after this move. It thinks I should just grab this knight here. I didn't really think of that. I thought maybe this bishop would be good later on in the game. So protect the pawn so my knight is free to move. And then my opponent played a3, and then I went knight d4, trying to put some pressure on this pinned knight. And g4 is basically the only move to break the pin, but this is still in the range of about even to maybe slightly better for black now, because with this extra pawn, well, it's not an extra pawn. The same number of pawns is equal, but it's an advanced pawn. Maybe it disrupts White's development a little bit, and White's king side has been slightly weakened. So the engine thinks black is a little better at this point. So I play c6, kicking the bishop, and then d5. I want to undermine the center right away, taking advantage of my bishop on g6 here, so I don't want it to become a locked-in piece. My opponent responds very aggressively with f4, trying to shut in that bishop before I have a chance to open things up in the center. So this just turns out to be a mistake, and I punish the mistake the right way, at least to start with. I make the correct first move. So what you notice about this position is that White does not have a whole lot of development. He's only got two pieces that have left the back rank. He hasn't castled yet, and there's a lot of air around his king. And so this bishop h4 check is going to eliminate his castling chances and give me a significant advantage. Now I went to d4, and here I had to think. There is the possibility of this bishop getting trapped by the move f4, and I decided to allow that, and I took here. And this is also still approved by the chess engine. It's not until here that I make a mistake. So Here's your first tactical quiz for this video. Well, what would you play as black here? There's one really killer move, and I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. It's pretty simple, so you should really be able to find it. If you haven't found it, if you didn't spot it immediately, go ahead and pause the video and look at it till you get it. I'm going to give the answer away now. The answer is Queen G5 check. And there's really no way out of this check. You notice the king has no squares to go to. Not there. Queen's covering these squares. The bishop is covering this escape square, and these squares are guarded by the pawn. So the king has no moves. The only thing he can do is block with the knight. Check here. And now the king, once again, only has, it has one square, which is the square the knight left. The other squares are still taken, attacked by black's pieces. And now black can finish the game in one move here. Hope you spotted this one. Queen F2 is mate. So that would be a very quick way to end the game. That was all forced after my opponent played the move F5. Queen G4 is just a forced mate in 3. So that would end the game. But I had played, when we were back in this situation, I was thinking about this move. I was thinking, well, I could get an advanced pawn here. Take, push, check. And if he takes the bishop, or I sack the bishop for a pawn, I get compensation, and his king is in a bad spot. So I was playing it that way. And I forgot to take into account that when he pushes F4, it also, F4 to F5, it opens up this diagonal. And I think I did notice that briefly during the game, but I thought he could block it with the knight. But of course the knight's not protected there. So anyway, that shows that you need to really stop and evaluate the position at each time, because it should be pretty obvious at this point, if you stop to look at it, what the right move is for white, or for black here. Okay, but I continued with my plan, E3 check, and the king goes to C1. And now I take the pawn here because there's no way to save my bishop, so I might as well get a pawn for it. And I get my queen out, protecting my center pawn, and attacking the F pawn, although I can't take it right away because the D pawn is under attack by the knight. But it looks like I can round up this pawn after a little bit of maneuvering. The game continued Queen F1, Bishop F2, so shielding this pawn, so it's still under attack. H4, and now I play C5 here to protect my pawn on D4. And now this F pawn is really hanging, and I get to round it up. So at this point I have 3 pawns for the piece, and the engine evaluates this as slightly better for white, but not like a piece better. It's only like a half a pawn better. So that means black has pretty good compensation, and after a few moves it actually starts to rate it as perfectly even. So maybe this queen trade wasn't the best idea, because that alleviates a lot of my problems. I no longer have to worry about his queen showing up here on G7 and checkmating me. So my king is pretty safe. I just have to deal with this annoying pin on the F pawn, and I can start pushing my pawns forward, and I think I have an advantage here in the long run. So C3, no, I played B5. I wanted to try and shut down this bishop. He responds with C3. So I took, he takes, and then rook here, attacking, oh, I did it, sorry, cancel it, I did it with the other rook. Rook to D8, attacking the attacking the D pawn. So he played king to C2, defending it, and now I push on with C4. So this pawn is pinned in a way. If he takes, then I have rook to D2 check, and it's going to win at least the knight. So that's going to be good for me. So he pushed on with D4. Now I've got his bishop shut out, which is what I wanted to do, and I'm free to push on with the F pawn. So I'm feeling pretty good about my chances here. He goes rook F3, slow down my pawn advance. I get my rook over here behind the pawn. He goes rook H1, and I push on with G5. And this is a mistake. It's not immediately losing, because I have a way to save it in a few moves, but I need to prepare this a little better. I was thinking I can push on to G5, and he can't attack because my bishop is controlling these squares, so he can't get onto the G file to attack it. I forgot that he could attack it from the side. So what I should really play is some plan like, rook to B6, and then I can push G5, and then I can bring this rook over to g6 and support it that way. So that would be a good plan. Pawn there and rook over. So and I still think that black has pretty good chances, although the chess engine rates this as dead even, so that means that white has adequate defenses here. But after g5, well, it still rates this as even, but I need to play this part precisely. I play rook f6 here, and really there's only one move to save the position, which is bishop to h4. I need to play that and defend this pawn, and then it still rates it as even. It looks like white can pick up this d pawn, but I can push ahead with these two pawns. So anyway, that was my last chance to equalize. And now after rook f6, which is what I played, white is just better. He picks up this pawn with check, and then he also wins a second pawn. And so my advantage has pretty much disappeared, or my compensation, I mean. And so now he just needs to liberate his bishop, and he'll win with his extra piece. Or at least that's what should happen. So we trade off, and he tries to undermine the pawns over here. It's a good response, and I try to attack his pawn. So takes, rook h5 defending, and now that allows me to bring my king in and attack his h-pawn. If I can liberate his second pawn here, that gives me some chances once again. So he's maneuvering his bishop to try and get it into the game, and I attack his rook with my king. And now here is, well, another tactical quiz for you. It's white's turn to move. The rook is under attack. What's the best move for white? Okay, there's one clearly good move for white. If you want to think about it for a while, pause the video. I'm going to give the answer away. The best move here is knight to f4. And what this does, it checks the king and it attacks the rook. And so it forces my king away. The rook is controlling these squares. The knight's attacking here, and the pawn's controlling g7. So my king has to move away to f6 or f7. I would probably go here, so my rook is on the h-pawn. But this drives my king away, and then he can continue with this plan to maneuver the bishop and even attack my h-pawn. So this is much better for white than what he played. Let's back up. He went rook h3, and white is still winning, but he's starting to let me into the game a little bit. If I can win enough of these pawns, say I was able to win this pawn. He couldn't get there with the knight in time to defend it, and it's on a dark square, so the bishop couldn't defend it. So if I win enough of these pawns, I can at least hope for a draw. And so that's sort of what I'm playing for at this point, trying to hold the game. King f6. Now king f6 comes with a threat. And the threat is, if I go to this square, it's a double attack. I'm attacking the knight and the pawn. And let's see, if his king comes to defend the pawn, I guess I can push my... His king comes to defend the knight, I can push my pawn forward and force the king back, and I can win that. Well, it's not clear how that would work out, actually. But what he played was he just ignored this threat and played bishop h7. So that's not the right idea, and then I play king e5, and I get an even game after that. So this is white's last chance to play for an advantage. After bishop h7, he's just worse. So what is the best move for white here? Go ahead and pause the video and think about it. This requires a little thought. It's not so... it's a little bit tactical, a little bit positional in nature. So what would you play here as white? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The recommended move is d6. And this is pretty interesting. The pawn, this is kind of tactic you often see in games too. The pawn is guarding this square, so the king can't go there. The knight is guarding that square, so the king can't go there. So if I want to try and round up this pawn, I have to come around this way. If I want to attack it, this no longer works because the pawn can just be pushed. And now the king is behind the pawn. I have to bring my bishop over to stop the pawn from queening, and then he has this great move, knight g6 check, forking, winning the bishop, and he's just two pieces up, and he should be able to win that one pretty easily. I think I'll be able to round up the pawn, but he's two pieces up. So that would be winning. Also winning is just a simple move, king here. He didn't need to even have that fancy fork. It's just this passed pawn is very dangerous. He can protect it and threaten to push it, and it keeps my pieces tied down. So with either of those moves, with either of those plans, white is winning. So it starts off with the move d6, so that's the best move here. He played instead bishop h7, and after this the game is just completely drawn. So I go here and attack the knight. He could try pushing the pawn here, but I have time to take the knight and also get my bishop in place to stop the rook from queening. And if he defends the knight here, I can... Yeah, actually, defending the knight with the king is probably an idea here, but I have the idea of distracting him with my pawn. What he played here was bishop to g8, defending the pawn, and I get his knight. And now we have a situation where the bishops are of opposite color. And even though the balance of pawns is uneven, I have 2 extra pawns, I can't defend these pawns. They're on light squares. And if I push this one, it just gives him another passed pawn, so I don't want to do that. I'm going to try and get my king over to defend these, but I'm just too slow. He pushes the d pawn, and I've got to, first of all, get my bishop in position to save it. And then I can get over with my king and try and round it up. But you see that he's quicker in grabbing my pawns. So my 2-pawn advantage is now down to 1 pawn, and I just can't make any progress. He can always stop both those pawns from advancing. So we agreed to a draw here, and that's how it ended. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.